Good afternoon, Saints. Habari Yako. So good to see everyone. Here I want to talk a little bit about the process for buying land, houses, cars here, if you choose to do so. I've chosen not to purchase a car, at least as of yet, particularly if you're in Nairobi. There's really no need for you to have a car, and I don't think you really want to stomach the driving habits of the Kenyans. So with Uber being so readily available, and if you're staying within 15-minute drive of the CBD, Uber is very affordable. It takes out the hassle of having to own a car, paying insurance, maintenance, and all of that. But the choice is up to you. The prices of cars here are relatively expensive, and I think that's because Kenya does not manufacture any cars here in the country. All of the cars are imported from outside of the country. Therefore, the cost of cars are pretty inflated. You can do a little Google search to find out what the cars would cost, but I thought I may have done a little bit of research. Let me just check out something right now. Say you wanted to buy, and also the models of cars are generally not the same models of cars that they sell in the US. Toyota makes cars here, but they have different names than the ones they sell in the US. They have smaller engines in most cases. So you'll find that the prices, most cars are 10 years old. If you buy a newer car, say 2020, that's the latest one that I've seen advertised anywhere, was the 2020, which is 5 years old. So anywhere to 5 to 10 year old are the cars here in Kenya, and they may come from Europe, they may come from Asia, but generally I think most of the cars are Chinese or Japanese made cars. Mazda, Toyota, Toyota Land Cruisers, things like that. So, but the price ranges differently based on the year and of course the mileage. As most things are in Kenya, most things are not as cut and dry as they are in America. Generally speaking, if you go to a car dealership, you're pretty sure that the car will belong to you. The titles are clear and all that. That is not the case always here in Kenya. My experience when I was first considering buying a car in Kenya, I'll use myself as an example. I had my team on the ground here in Kenya go and look at some cars from what they call the car bazaar in Nairobi. And they probably have them in cities all across Kenya. And some people even suggest buying cars from Mombasa, which is where the port is, where the cars are imported, where you may get a cheaper price for cars if you go to Mombasa and buy a car. And financing is now starting to make its way into African nations, and Kenya is no exception. Most companies and banks offer financing. Of course, in America, that's pretty much the only way you're going to be able to buy a new vehicle, with the prices of $30,000 and $40,000 for most reasonable big cars. You're going to pay at least that amount. So most people don't have $30,000 or $40,000 of discretionary income just sitting around in the bank. So we're used to making car payments there. But now that's starting to take root here in Kenya. It seemed like prior to the current times, things were most on a cash basis. People simply saved up the money and paid cash for things. Same thing with their houses. They generally just saved up and paid cash for the houses. But again, now financing is starting to make its way into Kenya. That has both good and bad, positive and negative consequences. But yeah, so most things I look at in Kenya. I was talking with my wife the other day. I said, it seems like most things that Americans were fascinated about 20 years ago is what Kenyans are fascinated about now. The malls and even the music, the way they do church here is the way that most Americans experienced at least 20 years ago. So when it comes to certain social and cultural things, it seems to be that imbalance, because based on my communication with my Kenyan friends, it appears that the only information they have about Black Americans is what they've seen on television or the movies. So, which you all know in America, it doesn't give an accurate portrayal of anything. It's for entertainment purposes only. So that's kind of the mindset or the worldview that many Africans may have of America, of Black Americans. They've heard certain narratives. They're lazy. 75% of Black Americans are in prison or have been to prison. They're violent. They commit most of the crimes. Of course, if you look at the statistics, there are more white people in jail than there are Black people in America. But percentage-wise, there's a higher percentage of Black Americans in prison. So I think they get that narrative kind of off. But when we think about buying cars, I personally, if I'm living in Nairobi, I wouldn't think about buying a car. Just use the public transportation. Use Uber. It's much more inexpensive, a lot less hassle and everything involved. But the choice is yours. You're going to pay anywhere from 1.1 million shillings and up. A fairly decent, maybe most recent car will cost you around 3.4 to 4 million shillings, which I'm not sure what the calculation of the transfer of that is, but I'll try to put that on the screen as I edit this video. So if you want a decent, newer model car, and that may be a Toyota Prado or maybe a Lexus or something like that, you're going to look to spend around 3.5 to 4 million. And you can go up from there, of course. There are more expensive cars, but from what I can gather from get a decent car, you're going to look to spend around 3.5 to 4 million. At least the prices that I've seen for the vehicles advertised in Nairobi and Nakuru. Now they are smaller cars, less expensive, smaller engines. You can the cheapest ones, the least affordable ones that is that I've seen, 900,000 perhaps for an economy car, fairly good condition. I think you probably would expect to pay around that amount for a decent car, 900,000. And again, shillings, I'm talking 900,000 Kenyan shillings. I'll try to translate that into American dollars. I posted on the screen and in the description for this video. So expect to spend that anywhere for an economy car, 900,000. That's on the low end. And if you're looking for a relatively good, somewhat mid-brand, luxury brand car, you're looking at 3.5 to 4 million shillings. And of course, you can pay more for cars as well. But that's a reasonable amount that you can expect to pay. Now for housing, if you want to rent, I think I've discussed this in depth in many other videos. If you're in Nairobi, you can expect to pay in, say, an area like Raqqa, where we stayed before. That's about 15 minutes from the CBD. You can pay around 48,000 a month. That's what we were paying for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment in Raqqa. And also, if you want to stay in some of the more luxury areas of Nairobi, like Westlands, Parklands, Kilimani, Kileleshwa, Lavington, and such, 1-bedrooms, you may be able to find one for 80,000 Kenyan shillings and up. In Kilimani, and Kileleshwa, as I did my research, most of them are right around 100,000 and up. Okay, that's probably around $770 or so, which is still a break from the American prices for housing. So if you're paying a lot in Kenya, by Kenyan standards for a place, it's half of what you generally would pay in America. So keep that in consideration. Now, if you're a person who have a limited budget, which is what I try to cater my outreach to through Affordable African Horizons, I try to reach the budget-friendly people because everybody simply does not have access to larger sums of money. In Nakuru, where I live, we also have a small place in Nairobi when we visit Nairobi. We're also developing a mission base in a rural area where we'll be buying our house, and I'll talk a little more about that in just a second. But for renting in Nairobi, yeah, on the low end, 300 US. On the high end, say 800 US dollars, you'll be fine. You can find a place from anywhere in that range that'll fit your needs, I do believe. In Nakuru, you can use 200 to 400 to have a very nice, affordable place. So the cost in Nakuru is almost half of the cost of living in Nairobi, depending on your lifestyle. So I've talked about maybe buying a car and maybe renting an apartment. Now let's talk about buying property. Now, Kenya has two sets of laws for buying land. There's a freehold, where you have to be a Kenyan citizen or at least have some type of ties to Kenya, maybe an alien card, like that, where you can buy land freehold. Otherwise, you have to buy it through what they call leasehold, which is generally, from my understanding, a 99-year lease on the land, which, to my opinion, I don't see the problem with that. 99 years, most people who are alive today would not be alive in 99 years, so I have no problem with the leasehold system. Only advantage would be that if you have family or loved ones that you want to transfer the property to after you're no longer here, then that may be the only pushback that I would give you. But otherwise, if you're just trying to build something here to enjoy for your life, the leasehold shouldn't be a problem for you. Only time that may be an issue is when you want to transfer it to another loved one. But from my understanding, you can still transfer it to someone else. After that 99-year lease up, they can renew the lease, and it just keeps going that way. So we're building a mission compound where we're going to build 5 cottages. We're going to build a 2-bedroom, 2-bath cottage, and it's about 860 square feet. The cost, Kenyan shillings, is about 2.6 million. That's what our contractor quoted us, 2.6 million, which is roughly 20,000 US. That's complete with standard finishes. The 1-bedroom, 1-bath cottages are around 400 square feet, I would think. And that was quoted to us at 1.4 million, which is about 11,000 US dollars. So there's no place in America, of course, that you can build a 2-bedroom, 2-bath house for 20,000. There's no place where you can build a 1-bedroom, 1-bath for 11,000. That's the cost of a old used car in America. But you can buy a home here for that. Now, you also have to take into consideration the cost of the land. The land generally does not include it with the house cost. Now, where we bought land in Salai is a very undeveloped area. Therefore, the land is very inexpensive. A 1/8 acre lot, which is common here in Kenya. That's a 50 by 100 lot. We purchased ours for 450,000 shillings, which is roughly 3,800 US dollars for an 1/8 acre. So if you add up the $4,000 plus the 20,000, 23, just rounded up $24,000, you can have you a 2-bedroom, 2-bath house with an 1/8 acre. And generally they fence the properties here in Kenya. You have a perimeter wall all the way around your property, and you have a big metal gate that opens to allow you into your compound. Many places have security at the gates to check in guests and things as such. That's very common here in Kenya, and I found the cost for security to be relatively inexpensive. Now, I own a private security company in America, and so when we hired a security officer here, we have him here 7 days a week, from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m., 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, and the total cost came up to 16,000 Kenya shillings, which is roughly, maybe 200 US dollars a month, less, maybe 200 US. I'll try to put the notes on the screen. So by any stretch of the imagination, hey, I pay my officers $800 a week for salary. So you do the math. When you're here in Kenya, if you're using US dollars, then security is relatively inexpensive. There's a lot of human capital here in Kenya. I'm really amazed by the amount of good, high quality human capital here in Kenya. That means they have some very educated, hardworking people looking for opportunities. So I want to suggest that you're in the listening audience. If you have a company or organization and you're looking to outsource some of the work that you can do online, then contact me. I have a lot of people who we can plug into that can help to manage your online affairs, uploading documents, courses, classes, doing online research, graphic design and such. I would love to be able to connect you, and you provide an opportunity for people here to earn income, and you get some pretty much low cost help to help you with your business. And anywhere around the world, the virtual assistant program is generally what it's called. We can find people to connect you to. And also, if you're looking to invest in Kenya, let's say you want to invest $150 into a business. We can find a way to connect someone here into a small entrepreneurial business for $150, which is about 20,000 shillings. And you'll be able to sow into the life of a person without just giving them money, but giving them an opportunity. That may be something you want to think about. So I talked a little bit about transportation costs, buying versus just using the public transport, generally Uber in Nairobi and Nakuru. Also talked about housing, rent versus buying. I gave you a small example of the houses that we're building in Salai. And you can generally find apartment complexes in Nairobi. They have a lot of advertising for high-rise apartments. Generally, on the low end, you may find a one-bedroom or a studio for 2.6 million. And again, I'll try to put those conversion rates on the screen. But generally, you probably can find most of the average prices I'm seeing around 5 to 8 million for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, high-rise apartment in a newer building. Now, one of the things about Nakuru versus Nairobi is most of the high-rises in Nairobi have elevators. That's not the case in Nakuru, at least in most places that I've seen. I think there may be a few hotels that may have elevators, but most of the apartment complexes, including the one that we live in, do not have elevators. Thankfully, we only live on the 2nd floor, so we don't have a long climb to go. But if you're staying on the 5th, 6th floor, then you don't need to have gym membership. You're good. You get your exercise every time you come home and leave home. But in Nairobi, it's pretty much all the modern conveniences of America, so that's not really an issue. So if I can give you any more information about anything I talked about today, feel free to reach out to me through my website, affordableafricanhorizons.com. We can give a consultation for you to discuss things in depth, to come up with a specialized plan for you to arrange pickup, travel, safaris, housing, business opportunities. We'll be welcome to discuss those things with you. And I look forward to helping those who want to visit the country or potentially live or retire in this country to make the transition smooth. So hopefully some information I give you today have been helpful. If not, leave a comment in the comment section for this video or contact me through Affordable African Horizons website. All right. I wish you all great journeys through life, great journeys to Africa as you discover and explore your African horizons. Kwaheri. Talk with you in the next video.